Welcome to Speak Well Partners 12 Minutes to Mastery monthly webcast. We're happy you tuned in, and for any newcomers, I'm Charlotte Dietz, and I love yoga.
And I'm Barbara Roach, and I love kickboxing.
So that means while I'm meditating, you're killing it out there?
Yeah, just leaving it all out there on the floor. Yeah.
As you do. Well, this is the third episode of 12 Minutes to Mastery, and our goal for you with these webcasts is to bring you the latest in the art and science of skilled communication in less time than it took you to do your last-minute online gift buying.
Yeah, guilty. I started to do this. That rapping that's a cordless drill, and it's a great way to do it. No mystery.
I guess your husband knew what was coming.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's jump right in with today's topic. Building off of last month's episode, where we shared the neuroscience around storytelling, you may remember the concept of brain-to-brain coupling. We're now going to give you a simple process for structuring a story, and then we'll share our tried and true process for telling a great story.
We've observed many of our clients achieve their goals, not just to keep an audience's attention, but to engage people. And they say engagement is the gateway to influence. And the best tool to influence is to transport listeners through story, just like this visual shows. And a story can be brief, like an example or a for instance, and it can be as long as 3 minutes with a beginning, a middle, or an end. So Barbara, why don't we start by telling one of our success stories?
Great idea. Let's tell the one about the scientist who had to convince his company's executive team to put his drug at the top of their priority list.
It's a good one because it was challenging.
Right. We got a call one day from a senior scientist working in a pharmaceutical company who had just spent the last 5 years slogging through clinical trials for a new drug therapy. Now, the product was ready for application to the FDA. The problem was his drug was way down on the company priority list, and he needed to convince his bosses that his drug should be the next one in the product pipeline. In essence, he had to take thousands of pieces of data and distill it into a 30-minute persuasive presentation.
A big challenge. And at our first meeting, we said, so let's see what you got. Start your presentation, and we noticed right away that his style was dry and a bit dull. Okay. It was awful.
Cut! Let's start again, shall we?
I just want to say request for your new product denied.
Exactly. So I just decided to jump right in and say, what do you think about telling a story in the middle section there where you describe phase 3 and the decrease in side effects? And
remember, he was all flustered. No, I'm not good at telling stories. And you said, Barbara, but you are. You just did it with us. And he looked at you so puzzled saying, what are you talking about?
And then I said, 20 minutes ago, when you told us about your son scoring the goal in the soccer game.
He was just unaware that, in fact, that was a story. And he said, but right. I think stories are fables that end with important lessons.
Right. Cinderella and Aesop.
Right.
And not a business story. It's not the same. Right. But we always hear this. And it's because many business professionals have this impression that stories are about inky shadows and wine-dark seas, and in the very logical and analytic workplace, they don't seem to fit. And so we said to him, it's not true, and we explained that all he had to do was turn that fact-telling into an actual story about a clinical trial participant whose health was radically improved by the drug.
And he said, well, I can definitely do that.
That's right. Of course he could. So let's show everybody how we help the scientist craft and tell his story.
Yeah, and this is a tool that we use to focus on the structure of a compelling story, because every well-told story follows this framework. And we've created this simple and easy-to-remember framework that you can use to dissect and assemble distinct parts of your story. We've created the acronym SHORT to remind you how important it is to tell short stories, especially in business, that take just a few moments. So let's look at and deconstruct each one of these letters.
Great. S is for situation. First, you have to set the context. Every audience needs that verbal and visual signal that a good story is coming, and the best way to do that is to set the scene. If you've ever joined a conversation halfway through and had trouble following the thread, you understand how important setting the scene is. It's the feeling audiences have when you don't set up the story correctly. They go, what, who, where? And putting that audience in a place, in a time, in a situation is the absolute first best step. And in our scientist example, he had to set the context by reminding the executive team how many thousands of people suffer from severe pain on a daily basis due to this neurological condition that prevents them from driving a car or even riding a bike.
And then we introduced, after the situation, this idea of the hero, the main character. And for many business storytellers, the hero can be a customer, a client, a patient, a product. Sometimes a hero is a place. And depending on the story you're telling, this hero will change. But whoever or whatever it is, the audience really needs to relate to the hero. And you'll remember from the neuroscience we shared in our last episode that the audience is always trying to find their experience or locate themselves in the story. And in our scientist case, he pulled from the most common characteristics of patients in clinical trials to create the story of his hero, Jason, a 30-year-old man who's single and was still living with his parents because of this terrible medical condition.
Yep. So now we've got our hero, and it's time for obstacles. This is the meat of it. This is where people start to care about what happens to that hero. Obstacles are what we call the beating heart of every story. Who or what is in the way of the hero getting what he, she, or it needs? Because Jason was unable to drive, his career options were very limited, and he was unable to maintain any significant relationships because of this condition. The scientists painted a rather bleak and disheartening image of the patients desperately waiting for the drug to come to market.
An important part of any scientist story, especially bringing new products out. You have to locate people in the story.
Yep.
And of course, everybody in the audience wants some resolution. This is the part of the story we're waiting for. It's and then what happened? And in this case, because of the scientist drug trials, this individual, our hero Jason, was finally able to manage his pain and relieve his symptoms so he could get his license, which in fact led him to finding a better job, and he even started dating. And this leads us to the final structural element of a really great story,
which is transformation. Now, you could certainly stop your story at our resolution. You've resolved it, you've tied the bow around it. But if you're trying to persuade or influence your audience, if you want them to do something, buy something, consider something, well, T is going to help you, the transformation. What has changed? What's new? What's different? You've already got that great story. Why not make it better? So business story transformations are not all a field of dreams. They just have to be vivid and help the listener connect all the dots that lead to the conclusion you want them to find. Now, in this case, our scientists had to appeal to the company's bottom line and their corporate vision and values. The transformation was thousands of patients living productive lives while providing shareholder profit.
And I'd like to add one thing to that, Barbara, which is that many presenters, not the case with this scientist, but present content or a storyline that has yet to be resolved or concluded or transformed, and that's fine. You just have to start telling your story, creating the narrative, and either imagine the ending or intended outcome for the audience. Then they can locate themselves in that sort of hero journey, as it were. So we've set up the structure of the story. Now we're going to use the same acronym to talk to you about how to tell the story.
That's right. Short again. It's our best friend. We could have gone the acronym long, but we would have been misleading you.
Not good
Short
story.
No. Okay, so here we go. Telling a story, let's start with simple. We don't mean dumbing it down. Many of you present to audiences who can handle and possibly prefer rigorous and detailed presentations. What we also know is everyone is busy. So simplifying your messages helps everyone get the most out of your presentation.
And something I say over and over is simple is not simplistic. They're very, very different. So simple is key. The next piece in telling is honesty. Sometimes presenters get really caught up in putting the best information. Then they use they use too many superlatives. They cherry pick some things. And, you know, it's a lot. The first, the best, the most unique, the gold standard. You get the drift. Should I keep going?
No, I think I got it.
Right.
Yeah. No hyperbole is what you're saying.
Right.
Right. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to move to O, which is outward. In other words, our best advice for telling a great story is get out of your head and your must-do and your checklist and connect with your audience. Have you ever seen those presenters who you're sure that their entire presentation is printed on the ceiling or the floor? Right? They're just trying to get through it, and they're not connecting in any way. So we're advising you to make eye contact, use your space, settle in, make gestures that enhance your words. Keeping that outward focus, you're going to tell a great story.
And the way to be a great teller and to keep the outward focus is to stay real. R is for real, because nothing sets off people's BS meter faster than someone trying to fake their way through a presentation, being somebody they're not. You have to be yourself to truly connect and really get into your story. And it's not just yourself, it's your best self. Not the Wednesday morning, oh, I didn't have coffee, rolled out of bed self. So that's the real self we want to see.
Amen. And then T is texture. What can you add to make your narrative sizzle? Word choice, of course, is a good place to start, and it's our best friend when we're telling a story. And let's be honest, there are week-long summer retreats just for this skill. So we know it takes some time, but it's well worth the effort, because if you add imagery and interest to your story, go beyond the facts, your audience will stay with you to the end.
Yeah, they'll be mesmerized, and you'll certainly be memorable. So short is a way to craft your story. Short is a way to tell your story. And because the clock is ticking, and because I've made my New Year's resolution to avoid the holiday rush, I'm taking advantage of the post-holiday half-price sales to start my shopping now. So let us leave you all with a final tip. You want to keep your story short enough to engage your audience from beginning to end, but long enough to provide, as we were saying, vivid imagery and relevance. So our advice is, whether you tell your story straight or weave it through your presentation, keep it short.
Yes. And I would just add a quote by author Stephen King, who said, if you find a book with a good story and good words, then treasure that book. That's just so well said. And that's why we included both the structuring and the telling of a story today. And now, a shameless plug from the Shameless Commerce Division. We are also continuing our December holiday half-off sale for our dynamic speaker system. So if you like what you've heard today and you want to work more on your storytelling, go check out our dynamic speaker system, and you get to it by clicking on the Get in the Zone link on our homepage, and you will find that you can purchase this online course at a great price and watch it in your pajamas at 2 a.m. if that's your thing.
We love that. It's gotten rave reviews, and in addition, great communicators do tell great stories, and Get in the Zone really helps you in our dynamic speaker to get in your zone to tell your great stories. So thank you for your time. Next month's 12 Minutes to Mastery will focus on persuasion, how to tell persuasive stories. So thanks for joining us today.
And Happy New Year, everyone. Bye-bye.